Hey guys, this is Editor Garrett here. For right now, the Shumake Take is going to be an audio-only experience. There's going to be no video, as the video and audio in the video is still completely out of sync, worse than ever. If you guys read my community post, if you didn't, that is the current problem right now and why you don't see me on screen or why you won't see me on screen. But I have a Pixel 9 Pro XL, by the way. If anyone has any solutions on how to fix this problem, please let me know in the comments down below. I would greatly appreciate it. If not, please enjoy the audio, as it is still pretty good, and obviously most people probably listen to podcasts, just audio like in their earbuds anyways while doing other stuff. They're probably not watching me, but either way, it's still going to sound really good. And also, Merry Christmas if you guys are watching this on Christmas Day. If you guys are not watching it on Christmas Day, I hope you guys and your families had a great Christmas. And I did get a new desk, which is really cool, so I will put a picture in there when I talk about it in the episode for you guys to look at. I really love it. It's fun, really comfortable. So hope you guys enjoy the audio, and enjoy. I will see you guys very, very soon. Oh, and I almost forgot. With episode 34, we'll just have to skip it this week. I'm very sorry. With this issue with the video and audio being out of sync, and then of course Christmas being in the middle of the week, there's NFL games playing on Christmas Day, so it really wasn't going to work out for this video to go in. So on screen right now, I will be putting my weekly predictions, so that way, for just my own integrity, and so you guys can see that I'm being truthful, this is my picks for the game. So that way we can still keep track of it, and the next time we do a weekly preview, we can enjoy it and have some fun. So thank you guys, and for real this time, enjoy the video. All right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 33. This is the holiday Christmas episode of the show, because you guys are going to be listening to this on December 24th, which is Christmas Eve. It is a great time of year. I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, to you and all of your family members. It is a great time. Like I said, it's a great time to be joyful. It is a great time of year. It's my favorite time of the year personally. I love the lights, all the decorations, the music is just fan-freaking-tastic. And all the joy and the happiness and kindness that people share during this time is remarkable. It's incredible. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Currently, right now, it is 11:30 at night. I'm recording this really late. As you can tell, my voice is not super intense or loud. It's very more regular, monotone. I shouldn't say monotone. It's very more like toned down because I am very tired. I had a long day at work today, and also I played some Minecraft with two of my best friends, one of which I haven't spoken with in a little while. Great person. You need to hang out with him more. And we also we speedran Minecraft. If you guys have never speedran Minecraft, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting because it really makes you rethink of how Minecraft works and certain mechanics, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do that. And along with the Christmas stuff, episode 34 is going to come out late. It's going to come out Thursday morning instead of Wednesday morning because obviously Wednesday is Christmas Day. So I will be spending that with my mother and the rest of my family, having a great time, and I hope you guys will be too. So I hope you guys understand that episode 34 will come out one day late, but I think it'll be all right. And today's sentimental object is this desk. If you didn't watch the intro, well, now here you go. As you can tell, we got a brand spanking new desk, guys. Look at it. It is clean, it's smooth, and best of all, if you can't really see it, but I can slide in here. I guess you can kind of tell. Like, I can slide in and out. With the desk I was using before, it's not really a desk. It's more of a nightstand per se, like a mini chest of drawers. So the back of it is just solid. So I would have to get really close and kind of like push my knees outward so I can get close to the desk and actually, have good audio quality and be able to sound really good and look good and make it make sense. And it was really uncomfortable. Now I can just sit right here. I can relax. Even right now, like my audio quality is probably not that great, but I can sit back and talk to the camera if I wanted to and feel a little bit more comfortable about it. and it's going to be so much better. There's a lot more space here. As you can tell, my water bottle is kind of peeking right here above the football. It's kind of hiding right there, so I don't know if I'm going to have to set it on the floor. I can sit a little bit lower in my chair, have my feet grounded so I can feel a little comfortable. It's just great. It's absolutely great. I love this desk. Early Christmas gift. We got the new phone, new desk, new chair. The setup is coming together. All we just need is to figure out this and that and make that look a little bit better. Until then, the setup is almost pretty much complete. To this point, absolutely awesome. Want to thank my mother for getting me this for an early Christmas gift. She let me have it. She asked me if I was going to record today. I said yes, and she was like, okay, here you go. You can have your Christmas present early. And boom, and here we are. We got a brand new desk. It's awesome. But we'll have to, I guess that's it for housekeeping. Not very much. Merry Christmas to you guys. Again, I'll say it one more time before the end of the show. I love Christmas. I'm sorry. It's awesome. As you can tell, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, kind of a little bit collared. Had to roll the sleeves up a little bit because it is kind of getting hot. I don't know why I didn't change this before I started recording, but we're going to stick with it. We're going to move on and truck through it throughout the episode. But we'll start with Thursday Night Football, where the Chargers defeated the Broncos 34-27. Chargers getting a critical win. And for Denver, their playoff hopes remain on standby. I want to give a shout out to the Chargers for this game, because if it's one thing that the LA Chargers are, and they've shown this all year, they are a resilient football team. They do not go down without a fight. This team is just, you watch them and you look at a team that just gives it their all. They were down 11 points 2 separate times in this game. They could not run the football to save their lives collectively throughout the game. And they finally get a 3-point lead. They get a stop on defense. And when they go get the ball back on offense, they close out the game strong. Justin Herbert gets a critical run on third down and 10. Massive. Gus Edwards gets a 44-yard run, and then right after that, Hassan Haskins catches a 24-yard touchdown off of a Justin Herbert shovel pass. They went down the field 90 yards in 2 minutes to seal this game, meanwhile scoring 21 unanswered points throughout the second half. This is a win the Chargers really, really needed, and where am I going to continue with this? This is a win the Chargers, they really needed this because while, yes, they're going to make the playoffs more than likely, looking at where the Chargers have been these past couple weeks with J.K. Dobbins being out and they faltered, especially with the loss against Tampa just a week ago where they lost 40-17. They were at home. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And to come back against a division rival like this and to overcome the adversity, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. I don't know how deep of a playoff run they can make, but they're definitely a threat. They're definitely a threat because their defense plays really well. Justin Herbert plays really, really well. He's playing the most efficient football he has ever played in his entire career to this point. And there were some really interesting things that happened for the Chargers in this game. The kicker, Cameron Dicker, got a free kick in this game from 57 yards right before halftime off of a punt. There was interference as the punter went to catch it. He got hit after he called for a fair catch. And with 0 seconds left on the clock, they were allowed one untimed play because a half or a game cannot end on a defensive penalty. And so the 15-yard penalty was able to put Cameron Dicker into field goal range. So he went for the free kick and got it. It was the first time one was made since 1976. So that was pretty cool. And collectively, 20 different players caught a pass, 10 for the Chargers, 10 for the Denver. Absolutely insane, crazy, because I talked about that last week about how there was a game where a player or a team had 10 different receivers catch a pass, and I was like, wow, that's insane. But this time, both teams did it, and it happened a couple more times during Sunday's games, which is pretty funny, in my opinion, considering how much I was talking about it. But going into more of what the Chargers did to come back and win this game, I talked about what they did on offense. We got to talk about what they did on defense. Defensively, they played great. They really played great. I mean, I know the stat line doesn't really show it, but the game was just really good. First off, they stopped the run. They stopped the run with Denver, which has been pretty warm these past few weeks, has been improving. They slowed it back down. And the big thing with Denver is that the Chargers, they limited the big pass plays downfield. Denver is at its best when they take their shots because Cortland Sutton, he's a really good receiver. Marvin Mims, who played well for Denver in this game, was able to get down the field. He's a deep threat for them. Troy Franklin hasn't done a lot this year, but he has the talent to be able to get down the field. That is, the Denver Broncos are a really good downfield team. And when they can do that, they score a lot of points. They're able to move with momentum and tempo. So being able to slow that down and really, in a way, speed up the game for Bo Nix, the rookie quarterback for Denver, that's a formula that worked for them to win, and it allowed them to just force Denver to dink and dunk, take short throws, and just swarm the ball, and it limited, what the Broncos were able to do downfield. And what it happens is when you force a team to dink and dunk, you force them to earn every snap, you force them to really work their way down the field. And for a defense, the longer you're on the field, the greater of a chance you have to get turnovers. Although they didn't get any turnovers, I don't think. Did they get a turnover? Do I have it in my notes? Did they? No, they didn't get a turnover. But the point still stands, though, that it makes it harder for an offense to drive down the field. Because there's one thing with being slow and methodical for an offense, but when you're forced to just do dink and dunk over and over and over again because you can't take shots downfield, you can't run the ball, it gets really hard. It gets really hard. It gets really hard to do offense because there's no variety. And there's only so many different ways you can run curl routes, slants, in routes, quick out routes, digs. There's only a limited number of variety of stuff that you can do in that area before it becomes redundant and defenses just continue to stop it over and over and over again. And that's what the Chargers did in this game. And getting into individual performances for the Chargers, Justin Herbert, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception in this game, wasn't great. He was fine, but he was clutch. When it really mattered in that final drive, he came through for the Chargers, and that's what he's mostly done all year. When the Chargers need him at his best, he is at, or not when he needs him at his best, but when they need him the most, he gives them his best. Justin Herbert, as I said earlier, probably the most efficient season he's ever had playing quarterback, and there's no doubting that he's a top 5 in the NFL. There's no doubting that. He is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Looking at his efficiency and what he's able to do with so little on paper, it's really good. It's really, really good stuff. And then Gus Edwards didn't have the greatest day, but he did have a 44-yard run to and that 90-yard drive to help seal the game for the Chargers. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground as well, so good. That's a good thing for him. Ladd McConkey, 6 catches, 87 yards. Him being back has helped this offense a lot. And then Hassan Haskins and Darius Davis, the 2 backup running backs, both caught touchdowns, which is really good for them. The big thing, though, for the Chargers, Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston's been really disappointing. I don't mean to get negative here with how well I've been talking about the Chargers, but Quentin Johnston's been very disappointing. He's not getting open very often. He still has drop issues. They need another receiver going into next year. They really, really do. Because Ladd McConkey, he's great, but Quentin Johnston, he'll have a couple games, and he'll have a couple catches that are fantastic deep down the field, which is a deep threat. He's a Z receiver. He's not an X. But they need a dominant X. They need that guy that's going to go win those 50-50 balls, that big physical receiver. There's going to be a couple in this draft. Maybe the big slot, Luther Burden out of Missouri, could be a spot there to go to. But would be a little bit interesting, though, because Quentin Johnston was a first-round pick, so having 2 first-round picks at receiver and then a second-round pick there would be kind of, that'd be a lot of capital at wide receiver for a team that loves to run the football like Harbaugh does. Would be a little bit interesting. But they do need another receiver. They need one because Quentin Johnston, I'm not going to call him a bust, but definitely they need someone else there to provide depth and be able to, catch a 50-50 ball downfield and just hold on to the ball because the drops are killing the Chargers on drives. And just to conclude with the defense as a whole, really good performance. I explained what they did good to stop the Denver Broncos offense. It was nothing flashy, but it's clean, solid football, which they've done just about all year. And it's a great bounce back from last week's performance against Tampa. And then we move on to Denver. This is a very tough loss. They had the lead multiple times. Had 11-point lead 2 times in this game. They had opportunities to win it, but as I mentioned, the lack of the deep throws down the field, the lack of ability to run the football and sustain drives, that killed them. But what really killed them was the second half penalties. When you already are struggling on offense, you cannot make it worse by getting false starts, getting holding calls at critical moments, especially on third down. There was a couple that were really bad for the Broncos. And then defensively, you got a couple pass interferences, you got a couple holdings. That stuff can't happen. When you're already struggling and you're in the thick of it in a game like this against a divisional rival on the road, you cannot afford to have penalties in the second half. You had the opportunity to put away this game, clinch your playoff berth, and they didn't do it. Now, is this to say, the Broncos are going to fall out and miss the playoffs? No, I think they win next week and make the playoffs regardless. So it's going to be held off for 1 week. But if you're the Denver Broncos, you very much would have preferred to have it now instead of next week, because the Chargers, they're in the playoffs. They're probably going to make it too. But if you wanted to really, knock the Chargers down a peg and really make it possible for one of these three, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Bengals, that are kind of middling there in the back end to kind of maybe sneak in, that's a possibility. But allowing the Chargers to stay in it and taking second place in the division, knocking you down to the 7th seed, makes it that much harder, because right now they'd be going up against Buffalo, and I'd rather be going up against the Steelers than the Buffalo Bills, although both teams would be a very tall task to go up against. Well, now it's the Baltimore Ravens. We'll talk about that later on here in a little bit. But into the individual performances for the Broncos, Bo Nix had 263 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was fine, did what he could. Obviously, didn't have help running the football very much. Couldn't take deep shots down the field again. So, doing a rookie, the thing was, he was fine. He was fine. He was efficient. He was clean. Didn't have any turnovers. And in situations like that, more turnovers are prone to happen when it's more predictable for whenever you're running on offense. So I think Bo Nix played fine. Nothing great, but he wasn't horrible by any means. He was pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Audric Estime had 9 carries. He had 48 yards and a touchdown. He was mostly fine. But past that, there was really nothing else in the run game that was giving them juice. And that's kind of been the thing for the Broncos. They've had these games where, the starting running back plays well, but it only gets a limited amount of carries, and then nothing else past them is able to pick up more slack and continue the production. So only one player really has a productive day. But in the modern NFL, if that one running back is not your elite lead running back, then you need to have another guy to supplement that. And the Broncos have been missing that all year long, which is why I've talked about them drafting Ashton Genty in the first round, or maybe Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. Like, these guys that can be a lead back and really, take a load off, or not take a load off, carry the workload, and then maybe you have a guy like Estime or Jaleel McLaughlin, right? One of those guys, kind of just be like a second down, secondary change of pace back, and that way your running game stays fresh and it also stays consistently productive. And then in the receiving game, Cortland Sutton had 5 for 50, slowed down in the past couple weeks, but really hasn't played bad, so really nothing to gripe about. And then Devon Vele had a touchdown. Fullback Michael Burton had a touchdown. Both were in the red zone, so that's really nice. Going to shout that out. And the defense, they played well in the first half. They really played well in the first half, but the second half penalties broke their back time and time again, is what allowed the Chargers to hang around, come back, and ultimately seal away the win. And by the time that fourth quarter happened, and by the time the Denver Broncos needed to, be at their best on defense, they simply just were gassed. They just could not hold up, and the Chargers went down and scored and extended their lead. And as I mentioned, with the Broncos, they'll have to wait, but as I said, there's no need to worry. They're probably going to get it next week. I know you would have liked to get it in this game, but for your playoff hopes, fine. You're still going to make it in, I think, at this point. And the Chargers, they're in a really good place, and you just got to give credit to Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, he's got this team in a much better place than I thought they'd be. I thought this year would be like a year in the bake in the oven year for the Chargers. Maybe next year, add a few more pieces, and then they'd be ready to compete. But no, they've been competitive in every game this year, and they've won a lot of football games. I had them going 8-9, and they're already at 9 wins. So, and then very much could be finishing with 10-11 by this time in 2 weeks. So, it's a big shout out to how quickly Jim Harbaugh has turned this team around. And it goes to show this roster has always been pretty darn good, ready to compete. But they just needed the right head coach to take them over the top. And I think Jim Harbaugh has that potential. Maybe not this year, because there's some teams up top that are really good and I think are better. But they are no slouch of a team by any stretch. Just looking at like 6th seed, 7th seed, like this is one of the best 6th, 7th seed teams I think I've ever seen. They're really, really good in their own right. They're no slouch. They're a team that deserves to be in the playoffs this year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We'll move on. Enough yapping about that game. That was a really long yap. Jesus. We'll move on to the Texans and the Chiefs, where the Chiefs win 27-19, continuing their winning streak. And for Houston, it was just a very sad loss. Tank Dell, the injury to Tank Dell, oh my gosh. Watching it on the TV, it was horrible. I saw him grab his kneecap. It was on the side of his leg. And at first, I was like, it looked like he was grabbing like a muscle. And I thought like he had tore his muscle. And then I took a screenshot of the injury and I looked at it much closer. And I realized that was his kneecap. And I was like, oh my God. Like, just, you have no idea like how crazy that is. Like, I've dislocated my kneecap before and I had it jut probably about like 2-3 inches, or not even 2-3 inches, probably like an inch or two, like out of place where it's supposed to be. So pretty bad. But no, I've never seen someone dislocate their knee and have it go literally on the side of their leg. That's just a very, very tough injury. You could see the emotion. You could see especially on CJ Stroud, you could see just how that injury really affected him. He had to leave in an ambulance, and go on a gurney because he couldn't get up. It's so sad. I feel really bad for Tank Dell, who's been through a lot this year. He's been early in the year. He had been shot at. That was really unfortunate. And then late in the end of last year, he had injured his knee before. I think it was, or maybe it was another injury that ended his year last year. But very unfortunate for a really, really good football player. He ended up finishing the day with 6 catches, 98 yards, and that touchdown where the injury happened was a beautiful touchdown, beautiful catch. But just really, really upsetting, and you could tell that the emotions really affected the Houston Texans because they lined up for the extra point. Kami Fairbairn missed the extra point, and I don't want to be that guy. I hope this doesn't sound like insensitive or anything, but when I saw Fairbairn miss the extra point, I just knew it was over. I just knew it was over for Houston. The emotions were too high. I mean, I get it. It's a very tough situation. But it just something told me that the Chiefs were going to win this game after that. It was going to be tough. That was going to be a tough game and situation to overcome. And the Chiefs were able to rise up to the occasion, and they took over and won this game. Going into individuals, CJ Stroud, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions in this game. They weren't very good interceptions either. They couldn't get the run game going. Joe Mixon had 57 yards. And then Nico Collins, he played fine. He had 60 yards off of 7 catches. Dalton Schultz had 5 for 45 and a touchdown. But the turnovers on offense really, really hurt them. And then defensively, they simply couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes. They have one of the best edge rushing duos with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, and they simply could not get to Mahomes. He was running around all day. He had a touchdown run on his hurt ankle. Had a huge third and long run where he got a first down. And, it makes you wonder, is his ankle really hurt? Well, maybe not. They probably, shot some good pain medication in there to make it feel a little better to move on. But they simply just couldn't. They simply could not get to Mahomes. They simply just couldn't do what they needed to do there and keep their gap integrity. And it cost them. It absolutely cost them. And if you want to beat Mahomes, you're going to have to maintain your gap integrity. If you don't, you are simply not going to win. And you look at some of the teams that were able to play them well, the Bills that beat them, they were able to do that. And then you look at the Chargers who were able, nearly beat them. They were able to do that too for the most part. They were getting after them all the time. When you cannot get after Mahomes, get sacks, and maintain your gap integrity, you simply cannot beat him. You simply can't. His instincts are too good. His maneuverability and his vision are too good. You simply cannot afford to make mistakes and just not execute against this guy. You simply can't. I've talked about this all year. And despite the fact that their offense has struggled most of the year, it still remains the same. You cannot defeat Patrick Mahomes by letting him run around and extend plays. You simply can't allow him to do it. He's the best in the business, the best we've ever seen a quarterback be able to do it. And so if you don't do it, you're simply not going to win. It's simply a fact at this point. And continuing on with Mahomes, he had 260 yards, had a touchdown pass, had the run, so he mostly played fine. Kareem Hunt had 11 carries for 55 yards. He was good in his own right. I don't know what's going on with Isaiah Pacheco. He had 9 carries, 26 yards. He really hasn't done much since coming back from injury, and I don't know if is he still hurt or has he just been benched, or are they just rolling with Kareem Hunt because he's been the starter for a little while, so he has the hot hand. I don't really know. Chiefs fans, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that and what's really going on. But the run game overall was kind of meh outside of Kareem Hunt. Not much there. Xavier Worthy had 7 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown. He has serious potential. He continues to make big plays almost every single week. He's flashy. You can see like they're using him like Tyreek Hill, like when he was in KC. Like he just has so much potential with the speed, his twitchiness. He's a guy that will make someone miss and then run for 90 yards and a touchdown. He's just good. He's just a decent. Right now, you would say he's decent, but he has so much potential to be really good. And I'm really excited for what Xavier Worthy can do in Kansas City because that player, that team is like a perfect fit for him. And when Buffalo traded down and let Worthy get him or let Kansas City get him, I was not very happy about that. But the Bills did get Keon Coleman, who really hasn't done all that much, but has been very impressive in his own right. Other than that, Hollywood Brown had 5 catches for 45 yards, playing for his first game with the Chiefs. He went down with an injury before the season started and been out since, but came back, played his first game, played well, moved the chains, was explosive, and that's really good. That helps the Chiefs' offense. They were a little bit more productive in the past game anyways with distributing the ball, which that helps. Having Hollywood Brown helps. That's why they got him. And the Chiefs' defense, they played sound. They got the two interceptions off of Stroud, and they did what they needed to do. They simply stopped the run, and they limited the pass when they could, made the Texans get off the field on third down, played a really solid performance, one of the best defensive units in the NFL. For Kansas City overall, they're probably going to finish 16-1 at this point. I don't know who's really going to stop them at all, unless maybe they lock up the number 1 seed and rest all their starters. And who do they play? I think they play the Broncos? No, they play the Chargers again, right? Yeah, I don't know. No, they already played the Chargers. They already play. I guess it would be the Broncos they played once. Yeah, they play the Broncos again, so maybe the Broncos beat them there when they rest their starters, potentially. But the Texans, though, they're going to make the playoffs. They already won their division, but this is very disappointing. This year's been very disappointing. A lot of people were excited about Houston, and simply it just has not been very good. Running the ball has been inconsistent at times. Throwing downfield has not been as explosive. I don't know what that's been. I don't know if it's been play calling or if it's the play design. I have no idea. But the passing game has slowed down a lot for Houston. The interior of the offensive line over there is not good at all. Secondary has been shaky outside of Derek Stingley Jr. Kamari Lassiter's gotten better, the rookie out of Georgia. He's played pretty well, so I'm not going to knock on him too much. But this team was sold going into the year as a Super Bowl contender. And this team does not look like a Super Bowl contender. And out of the 7 teams in the AFC that are set to make the playoffs, in my opinion, as of right now, the Houston Texans are objectively the worst. They're objectively the worst. The Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. They're really good. They find ways to win games no matter what. You can't count them out. You have the Ravens and the Steelers. Both are fantastic football teams. The Buffalo Bills are the best team in the best team in the AFC, in my opinion. And then you have the Broncos and the Chargers, who have really good offenses and really good defenses. And then you look at Houston, where their defense and offense have shown that they can be at that level and be that good, but they've had performances where they've just stunk it up, and they just look like the worst playoff team out of all of them right now. And it looks like to me that Houston's going to have a first-round exit. And, well, you can say, sure, that's fine and dandy because Houston, as bad as they were a couple years ago before last year, sure, it's an improvement, but considering where people thought Houston would be and their expectations, this year so far has been nothing short of disappointing for this team. But we'll move on to a more fun game. The Steelers and the Ravens, Baltimore beating Pittsburgh 34-17, retaking first place in their division and finally clinching their playoff spot. And Pittsburgh now drops 2 games in a row, and they are looking a little vulnerable, especially on defense. This game was back and forth. It was fun, but there was a sequence in this game in the fourth quarter that really took this game over the top. 24-17, Baltimore leads, 4th down and 6 in their own territory. Russell Wilson throws a deep shot to Calvin Austin trying to get it in the end zone for a touchdown. It gets batted away. Ravens turnover on down, or Pittsburgh turnover on downs, and then Baltimore, the next play, Derrick Henry gets a 44-yard run, puts them in the red zone, and it looks like the Baltimore Ravens are going to put the Steelers away. And then the next play, Lamar Jackson throws a horrible interception to Minkah Fitzpatrick. The ball is just floating there, floating, not fast enough, gets picked off, and all of a sudden, the Pittsburgh Steelers are back in it. They're getting ready to, I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Pittsburgh is going to take over. They're going to come back, and they're going to win this game now. And then 2 plays later, Russell Wilson throws a pick six to Marlon Humphrey, and that ended up being the second to final score of the game. Justin Tucker hit a field goal afterward, I believe. But, oh my God, this sequence was nuts. And these 2 defenses, man, when they showed up big in this sequence in general, it was awesome. But we'll get into individual performances here. Lamar Jackson had 207 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. Statistically, not a great day, but again, very, very efficient, very productive, continues to play really well. Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 162 yards. Zay Flowers had 5 catches for 100 yards. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely both caught touchdowns in this game. And the defense played great. They were able to stop the run, limited the big plays downfield. Having the Steelers not having George Pickens is really hurting them right now. And they, of course, forced the fumble on the goal line. Russell Wilson, a couple of drives before that, tried to run it in, fumbled, and was picked up by Baltimore, and they drove down the field and got a touchdown right after it. But the big thing with Baltimore, why they won this game, the first things first, they limited the penalties. The Baltimore Ravens, a few weeks ago, were the worst penalized team in the NFL. They only had 2 penalties for 10 yards in this game. Going against the Steelers, a division rival, you needed to clean that up, and what a great time to clean it up against a division rival. Great stuff right there. But as I mentioned with the Steelers defense looking vulnerable, Saquon Barkley last week against Philly didn't have the best game. But in turn, it allowed Jalen Hurts to go off and have one of probably his best game of the year. And then in this game, I mentioned it before in the preview of this game, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens will probably be able to run the ball better than the Eagles, because now you're going to have to try and stop his passing game for the Ravens, which is shown to be explosive because Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback. And then now you have to think about, Derrick Henry in the backfield. Like, it's going to be harder to stop. It's going to be harder to stop because you sold out to stop one and got exposed by the other. And now this game, Derrick Henry, the run game, was what exposed this defense, going for 24 carries, 162 yards, like I said. And now you have this back and forth dynamic, or like fall off, like up and down with the Steelers on their defense. And they've shown that they're now vulnerable on that side of the ball. So now if you can run the ball or throw the ball down their throats, you can, or throw the ball downfield or run it down their throats, you can really, take advantage of this defense right now. And then offensively for Pittsburgh, it was a fine performance. Russell Wilson had 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, but the 2 turnovers ended up leading to 14 points, which the Steelers had only allowed 17 points off of turnovers, which is the best in the NFL before this game. But so allowing almost exactly that same amount off of turnovers in one game really hurt them. And then running the ball was the 2 performances by Harris and Warren, both had over 40 yards. They were okay. But the thing was, they limited the explosive runs, which Arthur Smith's offense is run first, of course. We've known this. I've talked about this. But also, their ability to take shots downfield off of play action is where this offense thrives, and it's at its best. And without George Pickens, they do not have a weapon outside of him to be able to step up and do that for them. Calvin Austin has done a couple things, but he's not an X receiver. He's a backup Z receiver. He's a speed guy. He's not a guy like Pickens who can out-muscle receivers like it's nothing. So they need to get him back. That's a big thing. They need to get him back because George Pickens, not Najee Harris, not Jalen Warren, not Russell Wilson. George Pickens was the oil that runs this machine that is the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And along with that, no one else. Calvin Austin had 65 yards. He had 4 catches. Jalen Warren had 5 catches on the ground or through the air for him. But outside of that, no other player had 3 catches. That's not good enough. That's simply not going to be good enough if you're going to beat the Baltimore Ravens and be competitive in the playoffs. You're going to have to be able to have George Pickens back, get George Pickens back so he can do his thing, and then you got to be able to distribute the ball. You got to be able to distribute the ball and have receivers step up when they need to step up. And no one receiver has really been able to do that since Pickens has left because of injury. And along with that and what their defense dealt with these past 2 weeks, they look a little vulnerable right now. And if they don't get this together, there could be an upset in the wild card round. It's possible. I'm not going to bet on it, but it is something to keep looking at moving forward. And then for the Baltimore Ravens, here's the thing. They're the best team in this division, flat out. I thought they were going into the division, going into the year, and this game proved it. They were able to overcome the loss against Pittsburgh the first time, and now they looked a lot better. They played them a lot better, and they took advantage of the Steelers' defense, which they weren't able to in the first game. And they proved, like I said, why they're the best team in the division for me. And for the Steelers, they're a really good team. And I also talked about it, why I had the Ravens winning in this preview. These two teams tend to split. Every year. One wins one loses the other. It happens. These two teams, they're already a rival, so it's a dogfight. But both teams are really good this year, so it was bound to happen. Moving on to the Giants and the Falcons. Falcons winning 34-7. Falcons are now 1-0 in the Michael Penix era, who started his first game. We'll start with him. 18-27, 202 yards, 1 interception. The interception was not his fault. Kyle Pitts, we got to accept that Kyle Pitts is a bust. This guy's not very good. This is horrible. Kyle Pitts sold on this. Penix threw a perfect ball. Pitts caught it right there. Good catch. But then turned around, couldn't secure it, and then just flipped it up into the air, and it was picked up by Cordell Flott. And it's like, what is happening here with Kyle Pitts? He's a great athlete. He has mostly good hands, right? When he was coming out of college, it's one of the things that looked good on tape. But the big thing was his speed, his strength, and his build. He's a dynamic athlete, but he just cannot produce and play football very well. He has only over 500 yards and a few touchdowns. Simply not a guy that has been worth the 4th round pick that he was. And then you look at what Brock Bowers has been able to do his rookie year, and it's like, wow, absolutely insane. But going back to Penix, I thought he was pretty good. Nothing flashy, nothing great, but there were some throws that he made that were on time, good anticipation. They were very promising. It was very promising. And he also had some help too. Darnell Mooney got open a lot. He had 5 catches for 82 yards. He's been really good, actually. I looked at the stats. He actually has more yards than Drake London very slightly. They're both neck and neck with each other for team lead and receiving yards. Darnell Mooney's been playing great. Really haven't thought about it all that much, but looking at the stats and looking at some other metrics, he's been playing really darn good. And he's honestly been great for the Atlanta Falcons, which has been, they've needed a wide receiver too. They got him in free agency, and he's produced really well. Drake London, his running mate, 5 for 59, he was fine. And then Bijan Robinson had 94 yards on 22 carries, 2 touchdowns. They produced really, really well and helped out Michael Penix a lot, which when you're a rookie, this team needs to step up and help you out. They need to. And it wasn't just offensively and their weapons that helped. This defense helped out too. They got 2 picks, one of them being a pick 6, only 2 sacks, but one of them was a forced fumble recovered by Matthew Judon for a touchdown. They made plenty of plays on defense against the Giants. And with the Giants, Drew Lock had a touchdown. The 2 interceptions were horrible. Tyrone Tracy didn't do anything on the ground really, but he did have a really nice receiving touchdown. This guy is so talented. I hope they, going into next year and onward, they give this guy the ball more because he is explosive. He really showed how good he is as a receiver, especially the second half of the year. So, I'm excited for Tyrone Tracy going into next year. And then Malik Neighbors, he continued to be good, 68 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson had 7 catches for 62 yards, so he played fine. Not a little bit of a notable bright spot for them. Defense overall, they played meh. They had some good moments because you're going up against a rookie quarterback. So you were able to get off the field on third down at points, force some incompletions. Michael Penix had some pretty interesting incompletions in his own right. But he's a rookie. That's going to happen. But they simply just couldn't make any flashy plays to be able to take advantage of the situation. And for Atlanta, now they win with Tampa losing, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode. They have first place in the division now, so it's their division to lose again. But you got to go up against Carolina week 18, and next week you go up against the Commanders. This is a very tough game. This is going to be a very tough game for Michael Penix. And here's the deal. I'm going to give you my full thoughts on Kirk, because even though Michael Penix played mostly fine in his first game, this is a disaster for the Falcons organization. I talked about it last episode, how they gave Kirk all this money, but the big thing was you're not going to give Kirk all this money because he's going to be your starting quarterback forever. You're giving him this money to play for you because he's going to give you high-level football. Your team's going to be competitive, winning games for the most part, right? You should be. And then this gives time for Michael Penix to sit and learn on the bench for a year or two, let him learn, let him adjust to the NFL. And so that way, when Penix comes in, he is more ready to play, than he was if he was a rookie. And for the Falcons, Kirk had been playing bad. I get it. 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions on a 5-game stretch isn't good enough. Being 1-4 in that stretch as well. But I don't know. With the Falcons being right there to beat Tampa and take the division, they needed the best quarterback on the team, which is Kirk Cousins. They needed that. And going against the Giants was a perfect game for him to bounce back. Wasn't able to do that, which is unfortunate because this is what they needed. Kirk really needed this bounce back game. And Raheem Morris, I talked about, needing support Kirk, and then they bench him, and now they're going to confirm they're going to cut him on March 27th before some roster bonuses due. And it's like, what are the Falcons doing? What are the Falcons doing? Now, if Michael Penix wins these next 2 games and looks fine and they make the playoffs, it's not, people will be like, people will say it's not going to matter, but it still matters because the Falcons haven't been able to get the quarterback situation right since Matt Ryan retired. They simply haven't got it right. Marcus Mariota was a bust. Desmond Ridder was a bigger bust. And then Taylor Heineke was in there at certain points. He's a veteran backup. He's not going to do anything great for you. He's not going to take you over the top. So with this, they needed a good quarterback situation, a good quarterback development program in place to make sure they get it right the next time. And you know what? They didn't. And now, to say again, if Michael Penix plays well and he ends up having a good career, none of it will matter. But if Michael Penix fails, which I'm not rooting for, if Michael Penix doesn't pan out in Atlanta, it's going to be a disaster. It'll be an all-time disaster for the Atlanta Falcons because they had this program in place, which taking inspiration from the Green Bay Packers, who have been able to do it better than anybody else, developing quarterbacks over through the course of their history, and they've still managed to find a way to screw it up. And it makes me worry for the future of for the Falcons because if they fail and Penix doesn't work out, I'm sorry, but it's just frustrating. It's really frustrating because Kirk, I think, gives you the best chance to win at quarterback. And while you can say, 2 out of 3 teams, the final 3 games are not against good defenses for Michael Penix, so, okay, you can see what he has. Maybe he plays well. But you could also look at that as you're throwing a rookie quarterback in a situation where they literally cannot afford to lose another game. They literally cannot afford to lose another game or else they're going to miss the playoffs. And putting that type of pressure on a rookie quarterback who's never played in the NFL to that point, that just feels like mismanagement. That feels like malpractice. Putting a quarterback in that situation, just along with the fact that he's a rookie, that's just tough. No, you need a veteran quarterback that can, that's been there, that's been in situations like these, that can overcome that. And benching Kirk was just a bad idea. I'm sorry, it's a bad idea. I don't like the move. I think you needed to let Penix sit and learn for a year or two and really do it the right way, and rushing it and getting impatient. It's just, that's where the NFL is now. The NFL now is just impatient. No team really wants to take the proper time to put in place a proper quarterback development program. They really don't. Why do you think so many rookie quarterbacks and so many young NFL quarterbacks are failing? It's because no NFL team wants to take the time. And part of that is not, the coaches and whatnot fault. It's because if they don't do well in 2 years, they're going to be fired now. So it's just the pressure to go now, and get the right head coach and get the right quarterback and make sure that you get the next CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans and get the next Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels. And that's not the status quo. That's an outlier. You're not going to get that. So stop trying to get for that. Reach for the status quo and doing and sticking with what works instead of trying to go with the big flash and early success now, when simply that doesn't happen very often in the NFL. It's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating that the Falcons literally had the situation in place. They had it in place and they blew it, which, man, not much more I can say about it. But the Falcons are they're going the complete wrong way with developing Michael Penix. And like I said, if Michael Penix pans out, it's not going to matter. But if Michael Penix doesn't pan out, then it's just going to be an all-time disaster for the Falcons organization. But right now, they are first in division again. It's theirs to lose. They have a chance to win it out. But with the rookie quarterback and Michael Penix, you're going up against Washington next week. It is going to be a very, very tall task and a lot of pressure to put on a rookie quarterback, from my opinion, for no reason. Next up on the list, we have the Lions defeating the Bears 34-17. I'm just now really noticing that my voice is it's no longer, I don't know what the word is. Now it sounds very tired. Like I'm speaking out of the back of my throat more than I'm speaking with my diaphragm, where I'm really projecting my voice. Now it's almost like the burner has been turned on warm instead of it being turned on high. So now I'm just kind of like simmering compared to just straight up cooking, if that makes any sense. So I apologize, but my mouth is really close to the mic, so the quality should be pretty good regardless. But with the Lions defeating the Bears, the Lions defense gets a really nice bounce back performance, and the offense does not slow down despite losing David Montgomery earlier in the week, which hurt them a lot. Although the reports came out that he could be healthy for the playoffs, which if that's the case, that'd be miraculous. But regardless, in this game, they did not slow down. Jared Goff, 336 yards, 3 touchdowns, phenomenal. The touchdown to Sam Laporta, where it'll play action. Jahmyr Gibbs falls down on purpose. Jared Goff purposely stumbles and then throws a touchdown to Sam Laporta. Ben Johnson's a madman. He's an absolute madman. Him and Guts Campbell are absolute madmen when it comes to this. When it comes to this offense, they're absolutely nuts. No other team in the NFL would ever do that. No, and honestly, that would never work. That only worked because that doesn't work because the Bears defense simply is undisciplined. They got caught lacking. And against a good defense, that's not going to happen. That's not going to work. But against the Bears defense, oh, buddy, you can pull one off. And it happened. It saw it happen. And at first it looked fake. It didn't, or not fake. It looked like a mistake. And I was like, oh my God, like what's happening here? And they threw a touchdown. I was like, oh wow, they made something out of nothing. No, that was entirely intentional. And it was confirmed after the game. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding? At this point, what else can the Lions offense do? What else can they do? They're throwing touchdowns to offensive linemen. They're faking falling down to get people open and catch a defense lacking. And it's pretty interesting that that teams don't try that more. Not because, like I said, better defenses will sniff that out and they'll still, be disciplined. But I don't know why more teams, like offenses like this, would maybe try that against, a more undisciplined defense. Because you could probably get it more often than you not. But it is a very risky play because if it doesn't work out, the play would probably blow up and lose a ton of yardage. But either way, it worked. It was fun. It was interesting, crazy. And then Jahmyr Gibbs is first time being a bell cow for the Lions, really. 23 carries, 109 yards, had a touchdown. Fantastic. He's the best running back on the Lions roster, in my opinion. He's simply just explosive, quick, fast, twitchy, whatever words you want to use there. He has all of those abilities. Then Jamison Williams, 5 catches, 143 yards, a touchdown. St. Brown, 6 for 70 and a touchdown. Laporta, 4 for 43, had his touchdown. And the Lions offense did not slow down one bit. But going into this defense, The Lions defense got burned against Detroit a week ago. They allowed 48 points. The defensive injuries caught up to them in a really bad way. But this game, they bounced back a lot. They did allow 14 points in the first half. It was a little bit close. They had a little bit of shaky moments. But in the second half, they only allowed 3 points. They cleaned it up and played a lot better. And for a team that allowed 48 points the week before, in my opinion, that is a great way to bounce back against a divisional opponent, mind you, as well. And then moving on for the Bears, Caleb Williams, he had 334 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played mostly okay in this game. He had some good moments. Run game continues to be garbage. They need a running back so bad in Chicago. And then Keenan Allen, 9 catches, 141 yards. He had a touchdown, continues to play well for the most part. Rome Odunze had 4 catches for 77 yards. Hasn't been the receiver that a lot of people hyped him up to be as a rookie, but he has played well in certain games, and he's been able to show some good flashes. And then DJ Moore, 7 for 68. Fine. Cole Kmet had a touchdown too. But at this point, talking about the offense, it's been mostly the same all year for them. But defensively at this point, they just keep on falling apart. And I've been trying to kind of not say this for the Bears defense, because the Bears defense earlier in the year was pretty good. They had moments where it was pretty bad, but they've shown a lot of good. But at this point, the Bears defense is bad. They're bad. They really haven't shown a lot at all. And for the Lions, they're good. There's nothing to worry about. For the Bears, there's still nothing left to say. I mean, it really gets frustrating talking about bad football teams like this, where it's the same stuff every week. And it gets annoying trying to say the same things over and over again because it doesn't get better. It's the same stuff. And for the Bears, I mean, Caleb Williams, does all he can. And then, the receivers continue. They have good games. They play fine, but interior offensive line continues to be awful. Defense continues to allow big plays down the field. And from the Bears' perspective, that touchdown to Sam Laporta where Jahmyr Gibbs and Goff fell down, I mean, that's awful. That is awful. This defense on paper is so much better than how they've been playing. It's annoying. It's very annoying because they just, oh my God, the coaching in Chicago is probably the worst in the NFL. It's so bad. It's so unbelievably bad because this roster genuinely has so much talent on it. It's genuinely a roster that, in my opinion, is playoff ready. It is. It really is. But just they need to get the right head coach. And oh my God. I hate talking about the Bears. Not because I hate the Bears. It's because the coaching is just so bad. I feel so bad for the players because they're fighting hard. They're talented. This roster's pretty good. It's just they cannot get the right coaching. The Bears have never had the right coaching. Every time the Bears have had it good, the one out of very small handful of times they've ever had it, it was very short-lived. And I'm just hoping that the next year the Bears get the right head coach, but given their history, they probably won't. So we'll see. But at this point for the Bears, there's simply nothing left to say at this point for them. Now we'll move on. Let me take another sip of water. Again, with my voice, I'm sorry. It is currently 12:17. I've been talking for an hour, and I've literally only covered a small handful of games. I'm talking very slowly right now. I've noticed. But we got a really good game on this list. The Cardinals and the Panthers. I called this. I said it was going to be a good game, and boy, was it a good one. The Panthers winning 36-30 in overtime. They get a bounce back win after losing against the Cowboys. But for Arizona, your playoff hopes are finished. They have been finally officially eliminated from playoff contention. But starting with the Carolina Panthers, they started out kicking and firing. They had a 20-3 lead at this point, and they almost blew it. They allowed the Cardinals to crawl their way back, and get into overtime. But for the players, specifically for Carolina, Bryce Young had 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, had 68 rushing yards and a touchdown. Obviously, the numbers weren't great, but he played great. I mean, you look at Bryce Young, you can see him running around, extending plays, throwing with anticipation. You see This kid right now looks like the quarterback we saw at Alabama. He looks like that guy right now. And how can you not feel excited? How can you not feel happy for him and how great of a turnaround he's had this second half to the season? The season hasn't gone for the Panthers how they've wanted it to. They've lost a bunch of games there, even though Bryce Young playing well. But the players are still fighting hard. They're bought into this vision that things are getting better. And even though the losses have continued to accumulate, you look at the tape, you look at the product they're putting on the field, and it's infinitely better than what they were putting up earlier in the year. And Bryce Young wasn't just himself that played great. Chuba Hubbard had 25 carries, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. One of his best games of the year, if not his best one so far. And what a way to come up huge. What a way to come up huge against a playoff hopeful team in the Arizona Cardinals. And then defensively, not great. They were up 20-3 and blew it, but they did stop the running game in the second half. It really stuffed. James Conner was really going off in the first, really slowed it down in the second and made those adjustments. And it forced Kyler Murray to really start dinking and dunking his way down the field, which he was able to do in his own right. He ended up finishing with 202 yards, had a touchdown run of his own on 63 yards. Very similar stat line to Bryce Young. And, James Conner, he had 15 for 117, had the touchdown, but like I said, slowed down in the second half. But the thing was, I just hit my table with my foot. I had my knee propped up. I can do that too now, which is awesome. But really what did the Cardinals in was just shooting themselves in the foot. The interception by Kyler Murray didn't help them. The fumble didn't help, was not really good. And, the Cardinals, they've shown some really good things and they have potential. I think if you can have another good offseason and another good draft like the Cardinals had, I think this team is a playoff team next year potentially. Like they're right there. They're right there. And, their draft, their top picks and the draft really didn't do all that much, which has been disappointing, which they probably, if they did, probably would have put them over the top. But maybe next year, with a year under their belts, things get better. But this Cardinals team has potential. I mean, there's a lot of people that talked about the Cardinals being like a frisky playoff team. I had them only winning 5 games. They've exceeded my expectations. But they're a good football team. They're a decent football team that just kind of had some games not go their way. And this one was one of them where they just weren't able to do enough and they shot themselves in the foot, which is unfortunate. And you look at Carolina, talked about, the wins haven't accumulated, but how can you not be excited for where the Panthers are going? Their young quarterback is playing the best football he's ever played to this point. You got a young offensive head coach, which has really revived his career to this point. And then you look at what Canales has done with Geno Smith in Seattle and then Baker in Tampa. And I think you got a guy, a very underrated guy that's good at developing quarterbacks now. Dave Canales might be that dude. And you listen to him in the post-game press conference, in the victory speech, and I'm like, how can you not be excited about this guy? How can you not be excited about what the Panthers are potentially building here? Because I've seen right now, like the Panthers probably have more hope in their franchise than they have in the past 5 years plus, which is saying something. Because there's some teams in there that were, should have been good on paper that underwhelmed a lot. It's just exciting. It's really exciting where the Panthers are going, and they're definitely moving in the right direction. And like I said, for Arizona, a team that has potential, but this year is not going to be the year. They've been eliminated from the playoffs. But for the Cardinals, I'm pretty satisfied with where they've been to this season. Not the best way to end that game, honestly. And that segment, honestly. Not the best. But we'll move on to the Rams defeating the Jets 19-9. Rams getting a gritty win. And while New York continues to play uncomplimentary, same stuff over and over again. Matthew Stafford, 14-19, had 110 yards, had a touchdown, had an interception early that wasn't good. But Kyren Williams had 23 carries, 122 yards, had a touchdown. Matthew Stafford didn't need to play great in this game. Kyren Williams had a really good game. Nice to see him playing well, especially because he had such a slow start to the year. And then Puka Nacua had 8 catches for 56 yards, continues to be an absolute beast for them. Literally, week after week, he is literally gaining 50% of the entire total passing yards on offense for the Rams, which they definitely need another guy. But Puka Nacua he's just a dog, dude. He's one of my favorite receivers in the league. He is just very, very, very good. What a fun guy to watch. And then Tyler Higbee, he got a touchdown too. That's nice. But defensively, you forced 2 fumbles. You got 3 fourth down stops, making 5 turnovers. Turning it over on fourth down technically isn't a turnover on the books, but I still call it a turnover because you're giving the ball back. So it's the same. You get the same result as if you threw an interception or lost the fumble. So I count them as turnovers to me. So 5 turnovers for the Jets simply is not going to help them. And the thing was, the past couple weeks, the offense was doing good for the Jets, and the defense really wasn't stepping up. And now the defense was actually stepping up for the most part, but the offense just kept on shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over and over again. And you're not going to win football games doing that. Like, you look at Aaron Rodgers, he had 256 yards and a touchdown. He was fine. He's played better in the second half of the year. Definitely looked a little bit more like Aaron Rodgers that we've known and loved. And then, Devontae Adams had 7 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Then Tyler Conklin had 5 for 59. And then you look at Breece Hall, if you want to go back to the negatives, has 52 yards. Literally, I almost said Raiders. The Jets have the worst rushing team, in the NFL. Simply cannot run the football at all. And then Garrett Wilson only caught catches in the fourth quarter, openly complained about it afterward, which, if I'm the Jets, you cannot let go of Garrett Wilson. But if you can't get this, get him more involved and make things better somehow going into next year, Garrett Wilson could be gone. And if Garrett Wilson leaves, then Aaron Rodgers is inevitably going to leave at this point. I think it looks like he's going to move on with where the front office of the Jets wants to go. Oh, man, the Jets were so close, and that they would lose these 2 players potentially, and then they'd be so far away all over again. And the penalties were really bad, didn't help them. They had a missed field goal, too, that didn't help. It's just, you cannot do this. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot that many times and expect to win. And with the defense constantly having to be on the field, they get tired, and they got gashed in the run game because of it. And then that's how you get a bad loss. That's how you get a bad loss like this. And it's no wonder. It's no wonder why this game, how it went. Because this has been the MO of the Jets all year. They're going to screw up on offense and just force this defense to try and carry them, and they simply can't. They simply can't. When you turn the ball over 5 times, miss a field goal, and you're not going to win. Not like 11 times out of 10, you're not going to win. So it's unfortunate. And for the Rams, it's another good win, a gritty win. And again, they're showing they can win a variety of different ways. And for a good football team to show that you're a good football team, that doesn't make any sense, but to prove that you're a good football team, you have to be able to win in multiple different ways. And it's another tough, gritty win that the Rams can put on their resume as they pull away and take the lead over the Seattle Seahawks in the division by a game. And we'll move on to the Eagles and the Commanders. Commanders getting revenge, winning 36-33 on a last-second comeback with seconds to spare. For Philly, they missed Jalen Hurts in this game. He went out early with a concussion. But the story of this game is for the Commanders. They had 2 interceptions. Jan Daniels threw 2 picks. They lost 3 fumbles. They missed a 4th down on the opening drive of the game where the Eagles immediately went down the field and scored a touchdown. But just the way that this team crawled their way back and came back. Jaden Daniels, 258 yards, 5 touchdowns, including the game winner to Jamison Crowder, who finished with 60 or 2 touchdowns. And Jaden Daniels also had 9 carries for 81 yards. No one else was really able to run the ball. And then McLaurin had 60 yards and a touchdown. Omalade Zacchaeus had 5 for 70 and 2 touchdowns. The thing was, how did the Commanders, despite having 5 turnovers, how did they win this game? Well, the way they won this game was the defense, while it was mostly awful, the one place that they were able to be successful with was getting this Eagles offense off the field on 3rd down. 3 for 16 on 3rd down for the Commanders, which gave the ball back to Jaden Daniels with, all the time, gave it back a lot. And then they got an interception on their own right. They got a turnover off of Kenny Pickett. The Eagles missed a field goal, which gave them good field position. And then Luke McCaffrey had an insane day returning kicks. So despite the fact that, I had all these turnovers on offense, the Eagles kept on giving them opportunities for short field. And then the Commanders, with Luke McCaffrey returning kicks, he was able to make plays and give the Commanders short field. Like, they were able to get plenty good field position the whole game, which really helped them come back. And then on the flip side for the Eagles, they shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. And despite the fact that they played better than Washington in most metrics statistically, these little things are what did them in. They could not sustain drives. They could not, just score points, and they just kept on, having these gaffes that shot themselves in the foot. And you look at Kenny Pickett, who had 143 yards, touchdowns, and an interception, and you could tell between him and Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett doesn't have the running ability Jalen does, and losing that dynamic ability in your offense hurt a lot. Saquon Barkley had 29 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played great. A.J. Brown, 97 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 6 for 51. They all played great. But all those miscues hurt them. And then also on offense, no other player, only one more player, had caught a pass for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's simply not going to get it done. That's simply not going to get it done. You cannot win a football game most of the time when only 2 players are really catching a pass for you. It's simply not going to work. And that's why they were able why they weren't able to convert on third down. Because when you only have 2 people doing anything, all you got to do is eliminate those guys and then you win. And so they just simply weren't able to get it done when they needed to get it done. They should have put the Commanders away. They got 5 turnovers. They should have won this game easily, but they didn't. Because of all those things I mentioned that shot themselves in the foot that allowed the Commanders to hang around. And the defense on their side, they fell apart. They absolutely fell apart because of it. And Jaden Daniels literally put the Commanders on his back. This dude's nuts. He has 2 turnovers, right? And then he has 5 touchdown passes, 81 rushing yards, 258 passing yards. Despite the fact that they couldn't run the ball, 5 turnovers. Jaden Daniels might be the truth, guys. He might be really, really special for his career. Oh my God. You're remembering CJ Stroud and how well he was. No, the one thing that Jaden Daniels has done this year that CJ Stroud didn't in his rookie year was that Jaden Daniels has been able to put this team on his back. Very few players in the National Football League are able to do that. And the fact that Jaden Daniels as a rookie is having games like this, despite all the adversity, and he's putting the team on his back and he's winning, that's crazy. There's literally probably 3 quarterbacks other than Jaden Daniels that's proven that they've been able to do that. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Not even Lamar Jackson. I won't even put Lamar Jackson on that list. I will put Lamar Jackson on that list. That wouldn't be fair. I'll put him on that list. So the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL, they can do that. But outside of that, there's not really any other quarterback that can do that right now. And Jaden Daniels showing that he has the potential to do that and did it as a rookie. Oh my God, that's awesome. That's absolutely insane. It's not indicative of what his career is going to be, or what it's not going to be. But you can look at this. You look at this guy how can you not be excited? How can you not be absolutely enamored by what he's been able to do so far as his rookie year? And the Commanders get to 10 wins. I think this clinches them a playoff berth, which if that's the case, congratulations to what an insane year 1 turnaround for the Commanders that they really needed. If they haven't clinched one yet, then I'm sure they're going to get it next week when they face the Falcons. But my point still stands. This team is good. This team is really, really pretty darn good. Defensively, like I said, they were mostly awful, but they were able to do their, the one job that they needed to do, which is get off the field on third down, and they were able to do it. And it helped out this offense a ton. And, I have it in my script. Washington did make the playoffs with this game. So, again, congratulations. Congratulations to the Washington Commanders. Ended up knocking the Saints and the Cowboys out of the playoffs. And for the Eagles, this loss might take them out of the running for the number 1 seed. Because I don't see the Detroit Lions losing these last 2 games. And for Philly, that means you got to go up against the Commanders, who are the 7th seed, which would make an insane wild card matchup. Oh my God, it's hitting me right now that would be the game. Oh, that would be really good. Oh man, please Detroit get the number 1 seed so we can be happy for you. And then the first round we can get Philly and Washington again. Oh, man, that would be great. That's got to be a primetime game. That has to be. There's no way that's not. That's absolute cinema waiting to happen. Oh, man, that's really good. That little excitement I got made my throat sore. how many more games do we have left? It is 12:30. I've been talking for like an hour. I have been talking for literally like an hour, and I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games. So I'm like halfway there. I'm having an hour and I'm already halfway there. So I'm going to try and pick it up a little bit. There's a couple games in here that we'll go over pretty quickly. First one being the Browns and the Bengals. Bengals winning 24-6. They continue their winning streak and continue their momentum. Cleveland now just has to tank. Joe Burrow, the big takeaway is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, 23 of 30, 252 yards, 3 touchdowns. The dime to T. Higgins while he was falling down was nuts. I mean, Joe Burrow, man, if this team was better, he'd be probably the MVP, arguably. What he's been able to do this year, he's having an incredible, incredible year. And then Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, both played really well in this game. Andre Yosevach had a touchdown. He's had some good games here in the last half of the year, which is good to see. And then defensively, I talked about this in the preview. You're going up against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. This defense should be opportunistic, and they were. 5 sacks, 2 picks, had a fumble recovery. If you want to talk about opportunistic, that was it. They also got 2 stops on 4th down, held them to 3 of 12 on 3rd down. This was a performance that I expected out of the Bengals defense, and it's one they really needed. If they want to make the playoffs, they need to play their best football down the stretch defensively and really help this offense out. And when they help this offense out, you can see what this team can do and where they could go. They just simply haven't been able to do that all year. And it stinks that they're doing it now, but hey, at the same time, you have a chance to make the playoffs. You're 7-8. You went out and get to 9-8. First off, that would already be a massive success from where the season started. But if maybe the Chargers or the Broncos lose out and have some crazy late season collapse, maybe you slide in there. That'd be something. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Chargers and the Broncos are too good. But for the Bengals defense to play how they've played these past couple of weeks, this is such a huge reliever that there is some hope for this defense. That there's some hope that maybe things will be better next year. And this was just a fluke year for the Bengals. And then for the Browns, it's just more of the same. DTR had 2 picks, had 49 rushing yards on the ground, but that's simply not good enough to win. And then David Njoku had 66 yards. Jerome Ford had 11 for 92 and a touchdown. I mean, they had players play well for them. It's just the turnovers and shooting themselves in the foot are not going to get it done. And I said this, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, every time he's played in an NFL game, he's committed a turnover or 2. And I expected this to happen again, and sure enough, it happened again. I get it. You wanted to see what you have in DTR, but in my opinion, from a media perspective, I already knew what was going to happen. Should have just started Jameis Winston to finish out and give your team the best chance to win football games, which that's probably why they benched him, because they're tanking, and we're tanking. That's what it seems like. And defensively, you did get 4 sacks, and you did get a fumble recovery. I think Chase Brown was the one that fumbled it, but you're simply not going to stop Burrow. And with the defense for the Bengals playing as well as they did in this game, simply not going to be good enough to win. Sorry, it's simply not going to be. And then we move on to the Titans in the Colts game. Colts beating the Titans 38-30, running rampant on Tennessee, literally, while Tennessee continues their downward spiral. Anthony Richardson. I want to talk about this for a second, put some context here. Let's get a little bit of a, here we go. Oh my God, it's 12:38. I'm not going to be done by 1 o'clock, and then I got to edit and stuff. Oh my God, I'm not going to be done by 2. Oh my God, this is going to be terrible. But Anthony Richardson, back to the point. Anthony Richardson, 7 for 11, 131 yards, had a touchdown, had an interception. The interception was horrible, but added 70 yards on the ground, had a touchdown, and then to seal the game, had a first down run off of a read option. Really good read option by Anthony Richardson, though, to seal the win. But Jonathan freaking Taylor, 29 carries, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns. As a team, they rushed for 335 yards. What a massive performance from the Colts. Anthony Richardson threw an interception, and Shane Steichen said, we are going to run the ball by any means necessary to win this game, and they did it. and they won. And then defensively, they played great. And the Titans did get a couple late touchdowns, and, they made the score look a little bit more respectable, but it was futile. And special teams, of course, played well. But Jonathan Taylor is a big takeaway. He played great in this game. But I want to talk about Tennessee for a second, because I'm not going to. I have the individual players here. I will say Chikakonko had 9 catches for 81 yards, sacked another good game. Good for him. But I want to talk about Brian Callahan, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, because Brian Callahan is now a problem. He is now a problem in Tennessee. And I know certain people would say he's been a problem all year long. And I would, there's an argument for it. But I'm usually a defender of rookie head coaches because, hey, they're doing the right thing. Sometimes they're their first year. The big thing is how does their team play? And then you hear Mo Alley-Cox, the tight end for the Colts, talk about how the Titans defense said that, they're going to run for 300 on us. And then he's like saying, oh, yeah, we knew it was over when they said that. And it's like, what? At this point, allowing 335 yards on the ground, that looks like a performance where their team quit, where the players quit and didn't give their effort. Because in the NFL, you don't get manhandled for 335 rushing yards unless you just don't give a good enough effort. And with Tennessee, it's been loss after loss after loss after loss. And it gets to a point where how many times do you come into work every day and try to prepare and try to win a football game, and your head coach and your coaching staff comes out completely unprepared, and they end up getting blown out and having to do these second half, things where they're able to put points up, but to make the score look respectable, but it doesn't matter. And I think the players might be finally starting to quit, which I've talked about with Callahan. They're still fighting for him. They're still playing. And after this game, I don't know. I simply don't know. And Brian Callahan's going to be the head coach of the team next year, it looks like. But they keep on being unprepared. As I mentioned, they're undisciplined. Mistakes that happened in week 1 are still happening in week 16, if they're not even worse than where they were in week 1. And I already said that Brian Callahan's seat's going to be warm going into next year. At this point, his seat's red hot. It is red freaking hot. Because if Tennessee gets to a slow start next year, he's gone. He's gone. The GM might be gone. They might be tearing everything down at this point. What an absolute disaster this season has been for them. Everything that could have gone wrong for the Titans this year has gone wrong. There's literally been no positives. I mean, Tony Pollard did 1,000 yards. That's a positive, I guess. But outside of a couple things, this team has been a downright disaster. And again, I thought this team would be better. This was a team I really was excited about because I was really going against the grain. A lot of people thought they'd be bad, and a lot of them are right. But I thought Tennessee would be good this year. I thought they would. I believed in that. And I wanted to go against the grain because they were like the little engine that could to me. I believed in it. But the fact that's why it's so much more disappointing and so frustrating that this team is so bad. They're a horrible football team. This might be one of the worst coached football teams I think I've ever watched. And that's saying something considering that, the Raiders are so bad. The Giants are bad. And the Jaguars are bad. But they've had performances where they've played better. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is frustrating. But again, Brian Callahan, he's a problem in Tennessee now. And if he doesn't get it right next year within the first few games, he's going to be fired. And at that point, Tennessee would be completely lost as a franchise. Next up on the list, the Vikings and Seahawks. Vikings coming back, 27-24. Maybe not really much of a comeback, but they came back late in the fourth quarter to score. And Seattle, they drop a winnable game. It pushes them on the brink of missing the playoffs, one game behind the Rams. And Jason Myers missed a 60-yard field goal with 2 minutes to go, and Minnesota was able to run the clock out and seal the win. The thing was, both teams in this game struggled to run the ball. Seahawks run defense has been pretty good. The Vikings are the best in the NFL. That's to be expected. So it was really going to come down to who made more plays in the air. And it was the Vikings. It was the Vikings on offense and defense. Sam Darnold, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. Very good performance from him. A lot more mobile. Something I really noticed with Sam Darnold is he's very mobile this year. He's able to get out of the pocket, move around, and make the throw on the run and make these plays, which, I don't remember Sam Darnold being that type of guy coming out of college at USC. I thought he was more of a typical pocket passer. But seeing as he's grown and matured in the NFL over the years, and you see what he's able to do in year 7, and it's like, wow. Like, Sam Darnold has been played nothing but terrific. Now, sure, the situation he is in is really good, and he's going to get a big payday, and he's probably not going to do as well. I'm calling that right now. Not rooting for the guy to fail, but I think that's what's going to happen. The Vikings organization is really good. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Man, that was honestly, that was pretty disgusting, but very uncomfortable. Sorry. Very, very much sorry, but going back to the Vikings and the Seahawks, Sam Darnold continues to play terrific. He's had, for 12 games this year, he's had over 100 quarterback rating, which is incredible. Very efficient, probably the most efficient quarterback in the NFL, despite, even competing with some of the best in the NFL. In terms of, like, efficiency, he's top 5 in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. There's no arguing that at this point. He's played out of his mind this year. And then Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison continue to be fine. Aaron Jones didn't run the football very well, 18 for 67, but he had some good moments in there for the Vikings. But it was his defense, making plays in the air, right? The secondary got cooked for the most part, but they did get 2 picks. Dallas Turner was able to dive and pick one off, his first career interception. The ball was a bad throw by Geno Smith. It was kind of floating there for a little while. It was late. And then they got an interception to end the game. 2. And that was also a bad throw. Late, not on time. It was picked off by the safety. And they were able to get 3 points off of the interceptions as well. Andrew Van Ginkel got the lone 2 sacks in the game, but one of them was in the fourth quarter that stopped It stopped a Seahawks drive, which was really good. The Vikings are a Super Bowl contender, guys. I think they are. At this point, the Vikings offense and defense are playing so well. You can't look at them and say, like, this team is going to, I'm not going to say they're going to go all the way, but they have a chance. They have a real chance to, and man, they're so much fun to watch. And then you look at Seattle. Geno Smith had 314 yards, had 3 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions were just, oh my God, man. I hope I'm okay. Like, I'm not coming down with anything. Jesus. Oh, that'll be a story to come get sick on Christmas. Never happened to me, but when it doesn't happen now. But other than that, the other 2 picks, he was mostly fine, but they couldn't run the ball. Zach Charbonnet had 1 carry for -1 yard. I don't know if he got hurt. I'm assuming he did. There's no way he got on 1 carry and was a healthy scratch practically. I don't believe that. But Kenneth Walker came back, 8 carries, 31 yards. He wasn't good, so that did not help at all. And I get it, the Vikings' run defense is really good, but I thought they'd be able to get a little bit more production out of their running backs. And it sucks because Jackson Smith and Jigba played really well again. DK Metcalf played really well again. Noah Fant had 3 for 50. He played well. Then Kenneth Walker had 8 catches out of the backfield. 10 different players caught a pass, which, again, that's pretty crazy, right? And then defensively, they were able to get pressure, but they just couldn't get to Sam Darnold, which has been the common theme with Sam Darnold all year, is that he's been more mobile. He's been able to get away from these sacks and evade pressure and make throws on the run, which has really propelled him to being really good this year. And Seattle did run a fake punt, and they got it. But right now, the Seahawks are officially at the Rams' mercy. And if, the Rams lose, then sure, they lose a couple. They lose out and the Seahawks win out, then they can make it in. But at this point, all it takes is for the Rams to win out, and it's theirs. And the division's theirs. So the Seahawks are they're at the mercy. You don't want to be at the mercy of another team to make the playoffs, especially for the NFC West, because if you don't win the NFC West, you're not making it in the playoffs. So Seattle is they're in a lot of danger. They're in a lot of danger of missing. And for a season and for a team that I thought would be the one at the end to win it, very unfortunate to lose a very winnable game against a good football team. The Seahawks played mostly well. They were in this game and had a lead at one point against the Vikings, and they blew it. So it's frustrating because they had the opportunity to win it, and they simply couldn't pull it out. And that explains kind of where they are right now, why they're 8-7. Because if they were if they were on like the Vikings level, they would have came away to win this game. And then we'll move on to the Patriots, and the Bills. Bills winning 24-21, eking out a close win at home. Defense mostly has a bounce back performance, and New England continues to have reason for hope. We'll start with the Patriots defense, because the Patriots defense played really well in this game. They sold out to stop Josh Allen. They said, we're not going to let him make plays downfield. We're not going to let him, do what he does. We're not going to let him play Superman. And for a while in the game, they were doing just that. They had a 14-0 lead early in the game. They were able to pick off Josh Allen in the end zone. It was a throw to double coverage. It was not a good throw by Josh Allen. And, like with earlier when I talked about the Texans not being able to keep their gap integrity against Mahomes, you got to do the same thing against Josh Allen. You got to maintain your gap integrity. It's not just letting him run for yardage down the field. It's allowing him to run around in the pocket, outside of the pocket, and extend a play. And they kept their integrity. They kept him in the pocket and not really let him get out all that much. Unfortunately, the few times they did allow him to get out, that's where he made his plays, and that's where he killed him. But I thought this game plan that they had for the Patriots had for the Bills was pretty darn good. Defensively, they did get cooked on the ground a lot. But then again, James Cook had a great day. Josh Allen did have 30 yards. And then Ty Johnson had 30 yards on 6 carries. That's five a pop. So, they did allow yards on the ground, and they did allow a big 46-yard touchdown to James Cook. He also got a touchdown, too, which was nice. But, that's kind of the price you're going to pay if you're going to sell out to stop Josh Allen. But I thought the game plan was there. They had a lead. They were in control. The touchdown run from Ramondre Stevenson, where he made multiple people miss, trucked a defender, had a defender pulling his jersey. They went up 14-0, and it felt like they were in dominant control of this football game. And looking at it, it was like, what the heck is happening over there? But offensively, they started shooting themselves in the foot. They had an interception. The running backs fumbled twice. They did run a fake punt, and they got it too, which is interesting. But just defensively, they weren't able to keep it. They were not able to be 100% in their gap integrity, although they were good for the most part. Like I said, the times that they allowed Josh Allen to get out, he killed him. And then the turnovers on offense didn't help. And looking at offensively, we talked about the defensive game plan being really good. For the Patriots, the offensive game plan was good too. This is one of the better showings offensively. They were able to move the chains on third down. Drake May played really well. He ended up having 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. The first one to Kayshon Boutte, who ended up finishing with 595. That touchdown was glorious. And it wasn't like a great catch by Boutte by any means. It was just a throw by Drake May that was incredible. It was a perfect throw in the bucket. Boutte was completely covered by the defender and just dropped it in this one little tiny spot that the receiver could get it. That's incredible. That's incredible stuff. Drake May has played really, really well this rookie year, and he's definitely much farther along than I thought he would be. I talked about this before. But the interception was bad. It was an underthrown ball, threw it off his back foot, and it ended up being intercepted. But this team showed something. This team showed that they can have a good showing on offense and defense, that they can put a game plan together, that they can be competitive. And then you hear Drake May backing their head coach, Gerard Mayo, who I said was coaching for his job these last few games. And it makes you feel hopeful. It makes you feel really hopeful that the Patriots could actually be building in the right direction. And considering that they've been nothing since Bill Belichick has left, or since Brady left, really, this is a good sign. This is a really good sign for them. And then, along with that, where else was I going with this? Did I have anything else? I guess I didn't. I thought I did. I'm sorry. That's an interesting gap in conversation. That was an interesting stop. But my point does still stand, that seeing Drake May play well, it looks very promising. It looks like you have something there. And seeing this game plan by the Patriots shows that Gerard Mayo might keep his job next year. And I think you should. I think overall, seeing how Drake May has progressed and developed, I think you have to give Gerard Mayo another year, because the roster overall wasn't really good. It didn't have much to work with anyways in free agency and in the draft. So you had to figure it out, with what you got, and they're doing better. They are doing better. They're more competitive than they were earlier earlier in the year, which stands for something. And along with that, the Patriots, one game they usually get beat up by the Bills pretty good in these past few years or so. And then the next game, they usually play them a lot better. And they played them a lot better in this game. But for Buffalo and their defense, they bounced back. Compared to allowing 40 points plus these past two games, being able to allow, the 14 points was tough, but then allowing 7 the rest of the game, which the last touchdown came later in the game in garbage time, I think. So that stands for something. That was a really good bounce back performance by them. So the Bills are fine. And then for the Pats, they show a lot more promise. This is a game where really both teams win, in my opinion. Sure, the Patriots lost, which sucks, for the players. But seeing the progression of where Drake May is at is really encouraging again. And for the Bills, bounce back performance on defense is exactly what they needed. And Josh Allen, despite the bad performance from him, but for mostly, he was able to overcome it and lead the Bills to another victory as they continue their monster winning streak. Next up for the Jags and the Raiders winning 19-14. In the Tank Bowl, Raiders hold off the Jags and screw themselves out of a quarterback for now. I have stats here for how the game went, but honestly, this game wasn't very good. It really wasn't very good, but there is one thing I want to talk about with this game. Now, before that, I want to give some shout outs. Brock Bowers played well. Aiden O'Connell came back in this game for the Raiders. He played fine. Jacoby Myers and Trey Tuckers had 2 catches for 41 yards. They had explosive plays. And then the running backs, they had 9 catches for 76 yards, so they were able to get more production out of them in the receiving game, which is good. Again, they're a team that needs a good elite starting running back. They need one that would really help their offense do a lot better and be a lot more balanced. And then for the Jaguars, Mac Jones has played well since starting for Trevor Lawrence mostly, has steered the ship and been competitive, not making too many mistakes. So been playing mostly clean football, which is good to see. Brian Thomas Jr., 9 catches, 132 yards, and a touchdown. Goes over 1,000 yards in the year. Best rookie receiver in the NFL right now. Better than Malik Neighbors, even. The numbers show it. You look at the tape. He's played really well. So shout out to Brian Thomas Jr. for having such a good rookie year and being a bright spot in what's been a terrible season for the Jaguars. But looking at the situation, for tank bowls, you got 2 teams that are picking top 5 in the draft. And specifically with the Raiders. The Raiders had the number 2 overall pick. And they've been tied to Shedeur Sanders for months now at this point in the draft, going into April. And now this puts them at 7th, I think. So something like that. But they're out of the running. They're out of the top 2. If you're not in the top 2, you're not getting a quarterback. Sorry. It's not going to happen. At this point, whoever picks 1 and 2 is going to get a quarterback. It's just the demand is simply too high for Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders when there's so many teams that need a quarterback going into next year. Simply too high of a demand. It's not. Sorry. Travis Hunter is going to be the 3rd overall pick. It's why Marvin Harrison Jr., why he was the best overall prospect, fell to 4th, was because quarterback is simply a more important position and is in higher demand. But putting that aside, for the Raiders, it's tough because they won a game which knocked them out of position to draft a quarterback. But, the coaches and the players, they're playing to win. Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, talks about this. And, no NFL team is tanking. No NFL team, the players and the coaches, they don't tank. They don't try and tank. Organizations and front offices might try to tank. But the team and the players and the coaches, they don't. They really don't. They don't care about that. Because players are still fighting for contracts. They're fighting for pride. They're fighting for the teammates to the left and to the right of them. Right? The coaches are fighting for their jobs. I mean, there's so much more for the players and coaches to fight for at the end of the year for a bad football team than people talk about. Fans like to say, they don't even know how to tank right. And it's like, shut up. I get it. It's tough because as a fan and you have a chance to draft a young quarterback, you want that opportunity. But at the same time, the players and coaches don't care about that. They don't care. They want to win, and they're going to do what they can to win. They're trying to win football games most of the time in that situation. And it's tough because you can't lose football games and lose the locker room, but you kind of want to lose games anyways because you want to get that pick. So I don't know. It's a very tough situation when you're in that spot. because it's a conflict of interest. It's a big conflict of interest between the players and the coaches in the front office and the fan base. It's just a big conflict of interest, and no one's happy. No one is happy. If the team loses, players and coaches aren't happy, and the front office might be a little happy, might be a little sad, but the fan base is happy because they're one step closer to getting a potential franchise quarterback. But if the team wins, then you have the coaches and the players happy because they won, but then the fan base is upset because right now the Raiders can't draft a quarterback. They're picking 7th overall. So it's like they're not in the running anymore. What are they going to draft? Quinn Ewers or reach for Jalen Milroe? No, that's not happening. It's either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, 1 and 2. That's it. That is simply it. So there's that. As I scratch my eye, sorry. It's just a tough situation. And then for the Jaguars, they lose, and it's good for them in a way because they're still fighting hard. They're still fighting for their coach, and they're in the running for Travis Hunter right now. But if they don't get Travis Hunter, maybe you trade down and you can get a whole boatload of picks because a lot of players, there's not a lot of top end first round talent in this draft. Not because even if you draft a player in the first round doesn't mean they're a first round talent. There's only really 10 to 15 players in this draft that I would consider right now pure first round talents, genuinely. And so maybe you trade down a few picks and stockpile some more for 2026 and later on in this draft. That'd be huge for Jacksonville. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about with the Raiders and their situation because it's just a huge conflict of interest and why tank bowls are so hard, to watch at times because fan bases and teams are just at such a big conflict together. They're not on the same page. So it's tough to look at. It's tough to, swallow, but that is what it is. I really kind of lost my train of thought there. As you can tell, I'm sorry. I'm literally just mentally deteriorating. My voice is gone. I just had that incident on camera that was not good, and then already I'm tired. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not gonna be going to bed till 2 at this point. So I'm sorry that I'm kind of falling apart here. But we got 2 games to go. 2 games. One of them, we'll quickly talk about the Dolphins and the 49ers. Dolphins winning 29-17. And for the 49ers, they played well on offense. Defensively, they got smoked. The 11 penalties were awful. Missed the 4th down, missed a kick. And Devon Achane went for 17 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Tua played well. Defense played well too, actually, surprisingly. It gets easier for them when the opposing team can't run the ball. The 49ers have literally had their 4 main running backs on the roster all gone from injury. And while Miami continues, their playoff hopeful run, if they can get to 9-8, that'd be, I wouldn't say a successful season, but it wouldn't be a disaster compared to what it was earlier in the year. But for the 49ers, they're officially eliminated from the playoffs. They're officially eliminated. The team that was in the Super Bowl last year, that was in position to win it and blew it, they're now out of the playoffs. And for the 49ers, where do they go from here? Genuinely, where do they go? Because they need to pay Purdy, which you better not pay Purdy after this year, because this year he proved he proved that he is an overrated player. And I hate it because I defended Brock Purdy even earlier in the year, saying he's not overrated. He's got a good team around him, but now looking at, he's missing players. Players are hurt, and he's not playing his best. Sorry, I think I might be on that train now that Brock Purdy's overrated. I think I'm on that train now, and, you can argue with me in the comments if you want. And shoot, comment down below. I'd love you to. I'd love if you guys would do that. But it's tough for the 49ers. I mean, they got so many players top dollar paid for already. The cap hits are going to get bigger and bigger only, and it's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough to bounce back from this from the 49ers because now you have so many more players paid top dollar under contract, and when you have those players paid, it's simply going to be harder and harder and harder to continue to field a competitive roster. It's simply just going to be harder, and as they get older and get more expensive, it's just, I don't know how it's going to work out. Maybe they bounce back and make the playoffs next year like they did, 2021 after their Super Bowl hangover in 2020. But we'll just have to see. But for the 49ers, they're out of the playoffs, and they will not be defending their NFC title, which is unfortunate because the 49ers had a lot of fans were hopeful about this team this year, and it's simply been nothing but utterly disappointing. And then continuing on with disappointments, the Bucs losing to the Cowboys 26-24. Cowboys pulling off trap game. We'll finish with Tampa. Well, I want to start with Dallas though, because the Cowboys have been on a roll. That's fine, but they did not lay down and die. And for the Cowboys, they were trying to fight for a playoff spot. They were so mathematically in it. And then with the Commanders winning, it knocked them out. So as for the players and the coaches, imagine you're preparing for this game, in control of your own destiny, and you find out that because another team won, you got knocked out of the playoffs. And you know what they did? They fought their butts off. They were fighting. They were just going at it, competing. CeeDee Lamb on a hurt shoulder had over 100 yards and a touchdown. He didn't give in. Well, some players in that situation would be, shut themselves down for the rest of the year to get healthy. CeeDee Lamb is still out there playing with a hurt shoulder, despite them not being able to make the playoffs anymore. And the Cowboys have played so much better football since Thanksgiving. They've literally, the second half of the year has been so much better for the Dallas Cowboys. And it's impressive. It's very impressive to see, because they were so bad earlier in the year. And for them to make this turnaround and potentially end this season on a positive note, it's huge. It's absolutely huge for them. And into the game, actually getting into the game, Cooper Rush had a really good game. The run game was absent, but they were very efficient throwing the football. And then defensively, they got 4 sacks. They got a huge interception. The fumble at the end, oh my God, the fumble at the end was so sad. Baker Mayfield was getting sacked, and as he was falling down, found an open Rachaad White, who caught it, made a man miss, and started running upfield. And as he fell down, the defender ripped it out of his hands to ice the game. And they also got a 4th down stop as well. And it's like the Cowboys, on their end, they had huge effort plays to really make sure that they won this game, because they wanted it. They wanted to win. You could see it. And then for the Bucs, they just had these plays just did not go their way, and it's just they were so close, yet they were so far away. And despite the good offensive showing that they had, it's just they could not make plays on defense when they needed to. And now the Bucs are at the mercy of the Falcons. Now, I have the Falcons losing next week against the Commanders. That's a little bit of a spoiler. And then they face Carolina next week, which is no slouch of a game. But if they beat Carolina, if they handle their business and win their last 2 games, I think they make the playoffs. But it still is unfortunate, because they cannot, being at the mercy of the Falcons. If the Falcons win next week against the Commanders, I think it'll be the Falcons. I think the Falcons will win the division. It's literally like it's going to come down to that game with the Falcons and the Commanders, which is really going to determine the division. But either way, it's just you really just do not want to ever be at the mercy of another team to lose in order to win the division, because that tiebreaker that they share is what's killing Tampa. It's really killing them right now. And as long as they control their destiny and they get a little bit of help from the Commanders, they can make the playoffs. But right now, things are not, things are a little uneasy in Tampa. And for Dallas, they continue to win games in the second half of the year and continue to get better. And they are trending in the right direction. But oh my gosh, we did it, guys. We did it. I'm sorry for how this episode ended. Absolutely just fell apart on me. But we got through it, made it through. Again, I want to wish you guys a very, very Merry Christmas. Hope you guys have a great time spending it with your families. To conclude the show formally, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about all these games and what happened in each one. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Along with that, make sure to do what every YouTuber tells you to do. You guys know the drill. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Hitting those 2 buttons helps me out a ton. I would really appreciate it if you guys would do that for me. Just takes a few seconds to push those buttons. It's free. If you guys don't like the content, you can always change your mind. Along with that, make sure you guys are sharing the video, whether it's sharing it on social media with your friends and family or talking about it word of mouth with your friends and family. You guys are going to be with your families here on Christmas Eve. So tell them about the Shumake Take. Tell them about this football podcast that I'm trying to work and trying to grow. I'm absolutely loving making content for you guys every week. And make sure you get everybody locked in and get them locked in, and get them locked on to the Shumake Take podcast, coming out with great content for you guys every Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But remember, episode 34 will be coming out on Thursday morning at 8 a.m., a day late because of Christmas. But that is going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.